State of the Sun Devils with Jeremy Schnell, Jesse Morrison, and Damon Allred.
An Arizona Sports Podcast.
Hello and welcome into another edition of State of the Sun Devils alongside Jesse Morrison and Damon Allred. I'm Jeremy Schnell. Very pleased to be joined today by the Athletic Director of Arizona State University, Graham Rossini. Thanks for joining us today, Graham.
What's up, guys?
Thank you, Graham.
It's been a minute. Good to be back.
Welcome back to State of the Sun Devils. I know you were just on Burns and Gambo. A lot of questions asked there. We're going to try and not do too many of the same thing, but,
okay.
We still got some stuff that we want to ask you. But let's get personal for a second. Second school year on the job for you, Full school year coming up. What have you learned so far as the Athletic Director at Arizona State?
Yeah, I learned a lot in the first year and proud of what our team accomplished. I think we're really starting to find our footing in the Big 12. And it's kind of just nice to go into year two with the benefit of perspective. And think about the Big 12 as probably the first time in 4 years that the Big 12 is the same. When Texas and Oklahoma left to when the 4 schools that went in, and then last year, obviously, the 4 that we were a part of. And so I think the most important thing going in this year is just knowing what to anticipate a little bit better, knowing where to conserve energy, knowing to really kind of anticipate what's around the corner. Certainly as our sports start to transition from football to basketball, we're quickly going to be in ice hockey here in the next month. We'll look up in the spring with most of our sports competing in the spring, just being more planful about what's coming next and making sure that we're prepared for all the excitement coming our way.
I feel like one of the biggest things that was a talking point throughout last football season was just the Big 12 travel, and it's obviously a national conference. Mm-hmm. And so, problems came up in that area and solutions were found at different points. What do you feel like you learned from a travel perspective?
Yeah, I was actually really pleased with the travel, and I think that's the benefit of being on the western edge of the conference, because every time we were in the central time zone, we got the benefit of the time change coming back home. And so I don't really remember a road trip where we got back beyond midnight. And if you're some of the schools in the central or even the ones that are in the eastern time zone, they may not have the same benefit when they're playing in Tempe and they're getting back home at 4 or 5 in the morning on that East Coast return. So the travel was great. It was a blast last football season getting onto some of these new campuses. Texas Tech, Cincinnati, right out the gate were really fun fan bases to be there. K-State was a great environment, really wonderful university, a lot of fun to visit that. And then just being around some new surroundings was kind of the charm of being first time around it. I do think between football and both basketball programs, we've been in every Big 12 campus now at least once. And so that's helpful for the training staff, for the academic coaches, just to understand what going to West Virginia is like and, factoring that into the trip out there when we're competing, when we're getting back home. But all in all, I thought the travel was great and it was a really workable format for us.
What would you say the overall state of the Sun Devil Athletic Department is right now?
Trying to build momentum. We had a good year last year, number of conference championships. I think we had 10 of our 26 programs finished first or second in the conference, including hockey and water polo, which are in different conferences. 15 in the NCAA tournament, all of them in a conference championship, a number of them finishing in the top 25. And so I think it was a really important step forward for us as a department, but we're not sitting here talking about a lot of national championships. We're not sitting here talking about we've arrived. We've got to continue to adopt this building mindset that we're trying to progress year over year. We're trying to make strides in our programs. We're trying to create more resources that we're reinvesting throughout all levels of the department. And so I thought last year was an important first step, but we've got our sights set on a lot more moving forward.
We're hearing that it's going to be a sellout on Saturday, so helpful with community buy-in there. What have you seen from this fan base in terms of really rallying around this team? Yeah,
really excited for our fan base and just the energy that we're able to feed off of. And that started last season. I think we all saw that, even dating back to last year's Camp T, the home game against Wyoming, that even though it wasn't sold out, there was a different energy in the stadium. The atmosphere was just a lot more lively, and that continued to grow week by week with the home games that we have. And beating Mississippi State, first time we've beat a SEC team. The atmosphere was really, really fun there. Then you get back into the Utah and the Kansas games and the way that those ended, which was so exciting, and then just continue to ramp up. And by the end of the season, the BYU game, you guys saw that. That was incredible. We call it our 2-for-1 special, 2 field rushes for the cost of 1 ticket. We paid a price for that. Shout out to our fan that ended up in the BYU medical tent. Not a good look.
I was going to say, probably not something you want to see as an athletic director, but something we can
condone that. But
we can laugh about after.
We're happy to be in the core memory business, I guess is how we would say that. But really the energy that we're feeding off our fans is amazing. And we've talked a lot publicly about 97% of our season ticket holders renewing, 7,700 new season tickets sold. I think we're going to have a record student crowd on Saturday with downloads off the charts. And so it just helps us. It helps us as we're building the brand of our football program. It helps us build the brand of the athletic department. It helps our coaches recruit. When recruits are seeing that kind of atmosphere in Mountain America Stadium, the fact that it's Labor Day weekend, it's hot outside, it's a non-conference opponent, and people are there to cheer on this team, that really matters. And so now the challenge is, hey, we've got to do it for Texas State, and we've got to do it going into the start of the Big 12, and we've got to do it consistently where it's not who we're playing, how the team's faring in the season. It's we're all in on the Sun Devils, and we've got to keep building that fan base. And we're on our way, but we're hungry and looking at everything that we can do to build a better game day, to give our coaches the resources to go compete. And again, I don't think that work's ever going to be done. There's always going to be the next opportunity. There's always going to be something on our wish list that we're trying to push. And if every day we're working towards getting a little bit better, I think we'll be trending in the right direction.
You mentioned game day. Just kind of what can fans expect this year out of the game day experience at Mountain America Stadium for football games? Yeah,
really excited. You know, I talk a lot about food and beverage. You know, I think food is the best way to somebody's heart oftentimes, and food and beverage at a sports game is a big part of the experience anchor. And so we've got a brand new company, Airmark, that's running concessions in all of our athletic venues now. We've really focused, obviously, on the suites and the clubs that were sold out for the year on a lot of our premium space, but the general concession stand and making sure that a fan sitting in the end zone or the 50-yard line can get back and forth to a concession stand really quickly. So we added a number of points of sale that are self-checkout or grab and go. We've had a value item menu. We've really tried to create some of these signature items once again, and we'll have those up in the press box for media to try and talk about. But really just I talk a lot about a frictionless fan experience and looking at the arrival, the parking lot. We're making our parking experience a lot more digital. We're conscious of keeping the price of parking inexpensive. All of that. And so we just, hopefully fans are going to show up and see a better experience than they had last year. And if not, we want that feedback. And a lot of our planning goes back to the fan feedback that we get. I'm trying to be very active on social media. You guys have seen that. We value our season ticket holder surveys. We value, messages that we get via email, and all the decisions that we make are based on the feedback that we're getting from our fans.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
So there were these alligator bites for the Mississippi State game. I really like those. Is there a way we could get those back?
Get them in the menu. We'll talk to our chef. We'll see.
Yeah, I thought those were pretty good too.
Okay. All right. Tastes like chicken, right?
We made it a point.
Sure.
So like when, they had the signature item for each game, for each opponent,
Yep.
We made it a point to try each one last year, at least the games that we could. But
it's funny you mentioned that. Literally, I was talking to Jason Cervecco, who's our chief of staff in football, Lisa Young, our deputy AD, earlier today, and there's something that we're trying to create because Josh Atkins and Ben Coleman on a mic is gold. And there's some content and we're like, we've got these signature food items every week. There might be a Josh and Ben bit that we do kind of breaking down the food item of the week. And stay tuned. We'll see if we can pull that off. But those guys on a mic talking about food, they're linemen, so it fits, right?
For sure. Exactly.
Let's see what we can put together.
As far as just the team itself, Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson obviously have monstrous expectations on the field.
Right.
But off the field, they're doing so much as well. And, you mentioned on Burns and Gambo, the Adidas partnership that both of them were announced as part of today. They also have the cold beers and cheeseburgers. For Sam, it's second year running, where they're giving back to Phoenix Children's, which, of course, for this company is a great cause as well with the Give-a-thon that we had recently. What's it been like to have two stars at the front of your program who really represent the program in, I'm sure, a way that you admire?
Yeah, I'm proud of both of them and all of our athletes that are really thriving in this NIL environment. I think that's the benefit of when you perform in a major metropolitan market, big companies are taking notice. And, Sam's got Powerade, he's got Adidas now. He's involved in PayPal through the Big 12. Jordan's the kind of the next in line, really growing this NIL portfolio. What's really most exciting is that these guys are at a very young age understanding the importance of giving back. And, Sam leads by example, donating his NIL royalties back last year. He's given to the Pat Tillman Foundation. Obviously, what he's doing with cold beers and cheeseburgers in Phoenix Children's Hospital is amazing. He's also involved in an organization called Emma's Foundation that's really impacting the lives of children that have some challenges that they're facing. And so for 20 and 21-year-olds to kind of understand the importance of giving back to the community and that they're earning, but they're also mindful of that they can help support causes that are important to families that are cheering on the Sun Devils, couldn't be prouder of it. And, again, it's a testament to when you come and play for great coaches, when you're part of a growing fan base, when you're part of an incredible metropolitan area like we're here in the Valley, these are the outputs that you can expect when you come to a place like ASU. And so we're trying to get it from both ends. We're trying to continue to build NIL support, the mom and pop businesses. It's a minimal investment for companies to get involved in. And, Burrito Express has been great in that effort. And just understanding that, hey, we're just trying to give these guys a good meal. We're trying to give them a platform to promote their NIL. We're giving them resume experience. We're giving them a chance to understand what it's like to represent a brand. And so for local businesses, for national companies to see the value in an ASU athlete promoting what they're doing, it's awesome. And so we want to continue to find more of those opportunities. It's a call to action to our fan base. And if your company is looking for somebody to promote it, hit us up and let's find a way to build that moment and create that opportunity.
You talked about how you all are fundraising for the new practice facility for the football program on Burns and Gambo. I kind of had a follow-up to what they asked. What do you think the futures will be of the practice fields and the Dickey Dome that are currently in place once that does get done?
Yeah, we've got 26 sports and they all have needs. And even if football, when football moves to Lot 59 in the new facility, there's a lot of our sports that still use the bubble. The Dickey family has been incredible supporters for quite some time now and still is to the day. Kathy Dickey has been incredibly generous for us as of late with something that we'll announce soon. And so to be determined kind of what the future of that Olympic Village is, but there's a lot of momentum around the Tempe campus. It's been really fun to see Fox Restaurant Concepts come in and the new 3 restaurants that opened up this winter. They'll be ready for football and basketball season. And it just allows us to continue to build a better game day. And there's a lot of new apartment complexes that are on the Tempe campus. That's a chance for us to build more fans and young families that are living near ASU. A lot of them are faculty or staff, which is pretty cool. But that whole Olympic Village, track and tennis will end up over there at some point. We're talking to a lot of other businesses that have interest in headquartering on the Tempe campus as a part of this Novus Innovation Corridor. And so to be determined. First step is let's get the design right. Let's make sure coach is excited about what we're going to go and build. And then we'll figure out kind of what the trickle down is.
For the Big 12, obviously it's a very interesting conference in terms of football and very competitive conference.
Right.
How do you get the respect from national media, national pundits, and the committee? Because last year when this team was going on the run that they still were ranked below Boise State. How do you and other athletic directors in the Big 12 gain that respect?
Yeah, I think a lot just continue to build the brand of our programs and make sure that we're competing week in and week out and that we can't rest on what we did last year. Last year's over. Everybody in the conference got better. And so, we're going to be tested against NAU and that's going to only continue week by week. And so we've got to earn it. And we showed last year when you earn it on the field, the outcome is what you're seeking. And I thought we took an important step forward in that last year, but there's a lot going on around college football right now yet to be determined. The CFP is going to be doing some mock exercises with the networks and with a group of ADs, and that'll really inform some of the scheduling feedback on, we still got to play a Power 4 non-conference opponent. We're still trying to find pathways to look at future schedules and if the CFP expands or not, what the selection committee is really valuing. The conference does a really good job of staying close to those conversations. And so the AD group is always getting updates from the commissioner, Scott Draper, who's the chief competition officer, and keeping us posted on the evolution of college football as a sport. And so coach and others involved in scheduling can really be informed on the best way to design our future schedules and the best way to approach the seasons that we're going into.
Do you think it's enough for the top 5 conference champions to just solely make the conversation, to make the playoff? Or do you think they need more in terms of maybe hosting a game, even if they're ranked lower?
We've always liked the idea of the conference champion has to be in the college football playoff.
Sure.
Like that's a non-negotiable to us. And whether or not it expands, there's got to be a formula where the best teams get a chance to advance. And the concept of predestined spots per conference is nothing that we've ever been supportive of. We believe that you got to earn it on the field. And if you have a good season and if you compete and if you schedule in a way that the committee responds to, you're going to have a chance to advance, sometimes if you don't win the conference. But we're more of the mindset of let's win it on the field. And if that means winning the conference, then we've got to win the conference. If that means we've got to get to the conference championship game and that's going to be a really good pathway to get into the CFP, well, we need to know that. We need to be able to build around that.
So that sounds to me like you're in favor of the 5+11 format that's been talked about. That would be 5 conference champions and then 11 at-large bids.
Yep, we've always been that way.
Just from the aspect of, earning your way in as those at-large teams and not having so many automatic bids?
Yeah, this is an invitational. This is a playoff. This is a tournament. This is a format where if you have success, you're going to have a pathway to advance and compete for a national championship. And so we've always been behind the 5+11. I know there's some new ideas that have come out as of late. Those are still very early days. And again, the group might determine it doesn't make sense to expand at this particular point, and that's okay too.
SEC is moving to the 9-game schedule. You'll have a few SEC opponents in your future schedules. What do you think the impact of that will do on those games? And would you like to keep those games, or could it potentially mean maybe playing some of the old Pac-12 foes or something?
Yeah, it could create some changes. Too early to really know. That just happened about a week and a half ago, and so nothing's quite changed yet. We do have a number of SEC opponents scheduled in the coming years. But again, I think a lot of it's going to be part of this bigger conversation of what's the future of the CFP look like? What are some of the formulas that really make sense as you build your schedule? We do like the idea of the former Pac-12 schools, particularly the LA schools. And I've talked to my counterpart at UCLA about that. And, as they have openings and as we have openings, California is still really important for us from a recruiting standpoint. It's really important that we've got a presence in that state wherever we can find it. And as they have openings as Big Ten schools, as we have openings in the Big 12, those are matchups that we're very, very mindful of trying to find a way to get back into some of those familiar rivalries that we knew and love in the Pac-10 and the Pac-12, and while we're living in this new conference in the Big 12.
And then finally, or last question about the playoff, just when it comes to expansion, like you've mentioned a little bit, do you think that it kind of needs to stay smaller just so it has that more exclusive kind of feel where the regular season does matter?
Yeah, the regular season has to matter because these guys put in an incredible amount of work. The coaches are working year-round, round the clock, recruiting and building a roster. And so anything that minimizes the importance of regular season, I think is bad for the sport. And I also think we've got to be realistic that the more you add to the CFP, and if you're adding more games, that there's just the reality of the schedule is, they're still college students. They're still going to class. They still have finals. There's still the transition into the new year that happens. And I don't know that we want to go head-to-head with the Super Bowl. I don't know that we want to start college football in late July. And so I think there's a lot more to be determined in terms of if it goes beyond 16 at one point, what are some of the other factors that can really inform that decision? And I think it's way too early to really know how that's all going to play out.
It could mean a lot more road games at the start of the season for ASU if you started in late July. But last question before Jesse gets to his rapid fire questions, because he's got a few for you.
All right.
Do you have any response? Apparently the NAU kicker has sent out a message. Do you have any response to this NAU kicker?
I'm unfamiliar with the NAU kickers message.
Okay, so. That's perfect. He basically said that he's going to shock the world this week.
Yeah, the history will be made on Saturday, I believe is what he said.
Yeah.
And then Sam was actually in the Instagram comments, and he replied, "Bet" was the one-word response. So he seems to feel good about his chances.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to leave it to those guys to navigate that one.
Let them do it on the field, exactly.
All right, I got some rapid-fire fun questions for you before we get you out of here. Today in our office, we celebrated the start of college football season by bringing in a bunch of different tailgate food items. What is your favorite tailgate food item?
A really good breakfast burrito.
Nice.
We have a lot of night games, and so it's not often that people are committed to the breakfast burritos. But we had late in the season when the temperatures got a little bit cooler, a couple of our diehard tailgaters, said, "Hey, you got to check this out." And so maybe not the most common food item, but like a killer breakfast burrito at a tailgate always works.
Kenny Dillingham, Sam Levitt, they're on the cover of the deluxe edition of the college football video game for this year. Have you played it, and are you any good?
I've not played it. I love that game back in the day. We've got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and so like when I get home, my energy is elsewhere. So haven't been able to dabble back into the new video games quite yet.
What is your favorite ASU football tradition?
Favorite ASU football tradition? I like the one that we're starting to build. Last year we introduced this fourth quarter video that was really well received. We're kind of running an updated version of that one back. The football content team is unbelievable. You saw what those guys did during the storm a couple of nights ago. Taylor and
fantastic.
Callum literally laying it on the line to get the shot. And
anything
those guys,
for content.
Anything for content, whatever.
Poor guy said he needed to wear a mask. I mean, it's something that you don't think of when you're just running out there to get the shot.
Teach them about Valley Fever, right? We don't want any spores getting in there. But we introduced this fourth quarter video last year. It was an idea that Coach had, and really, it just reflected how we played late in games last year. And so that was kind of a cool thing that we introduced last year, first year in the Big 12. And so excited to continue that one this year.
Was your favorite Sun Devil uniform combination?
My favorite one is one that we've not yet announced. But we've been working on it for a couple years. It's a little throwback action that we'll get a chance to debut in a couple weeks, and I think our fans are going to love it. So
okay.
I'll say no more, but I can't wait for everybody.
That's a great tease.
That answered my final question, which was, will there be any uniform or field design surprises this season?
Sounds like there will be.
So can we say that it's going to happen for the Texas State game? Is that?
There's a very strong likelihood that it would happen for that game. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks to Graham Rossini for joining us. We really appreciate it. This has been State of the Sun Devils with Jesse Morrison, Damon Allred, and Jeremy Schnell. We'll talk to you soon.